Sprinkle, can you do me a favor? While you're in here in the next few minutes, every once in a while, can you just like tilt this forward and make sure it's recording?
Is it on?
It's been kind of finicky. I just want to make sure. So if it's like, if you just every like few minutes could just like tilt it, just make sure. Every how many minutes?
Is it on?
Just like every 5 minutes or so. Just to
Is
make
it
sure.
on?
Yep. All right, everybody. So can I have everyone that went with Mrs. Sprinkle yesterday on the bridge to raise their hands for me? Okay. So we're not going to do that today because I don't want y'all to miss out on the lesson. I want you to be able to be a part of today's lesson. You don't have to leave and be banished, you know? So what we're going to do instead is, because you still can't be on this side of the camera, but I want you to be a part of class, is I'm going to have y'all just sit in chairs against the wall in the back. So if you were with words or heart, if you were with Mrs. Sprinkle yesterday on the bridge, would you please go to the back of the classroom and sit in one of those chairs so you guys can be a part of today's lesson, even if you didn't get your permission slip? Huh? Honestly, let me see. You're fine, actually. Yeah, you don't need to move because I can't see you.
I bet you that Micah moved to the end. If he moved to the end beside of Gavin, you wouldn't even be able to see him.
Hey, Micah, do you want to scoot down to this one corner?
You might want to fix that back.
Yeah, it's fine. Let's scoot.
Is that good?
Yeah, it's perfect. It's been a little finicky and I don't trust it.
Yeah.
So,
I set my time.
thank you. All right, was anybody else with Mrs. Sprinkle yesterday? Anyone else? Okay, yeah, Katie was. Okay, great. So, date still stands from yesterday, guys. So remember yesterday I said I'm not above bribery? I'm talking full rows of your pass chart signed, like the whole thing. Like I'm talking like 2 whole passes for free.
Okay.
If y'all are just on task today, and if you can minimize chatter, don't talk to your neighbor today.
You mean this many
Yeah, that
passes?
whole thing. All right, I'm gonna sign them later. I have not forgotten about it,
What,
and
this
I
whole
have
thing?
not forgotten about you.
This whole thing
Here's
now?
the thing. All right, up here. I need you to be real quiet. All right. So later today, at the end of class, if we can get to it, we are working independently and quietly for a couple minutes on an exit ticket, and I want to go ahead and sign your sheets during that time. So I'm gonna go around at the end of class and I'm gonna sign all the rows that I promised you. I haven't forgotten about it. You guys earned them yesterday and you're gonna earn them again today. And I'm confident in that. Okay? You guys just need to show up and do just as well as you did yesterday. Okay? I was really proud of you guys. You did super, super good. Y'all earned all of those rows, all the passes, and I just wanna see the same thing again today. So whatever you did yesterday, do the same thing today. All right, y'all did super well. You really earned it, and I want to see it happen twice. So today we're going to be getting through a couple different things. It's going to involve getting up and moving and talking with other people, and so it's going to be really tempting for things to get out of control. And it's going to be really exciting and fun. I know when we get up and we get our blood moving, like something in us just wants to chat it up and talk all the time, but we need to be on task so that we can get things done by the end of the day, so that tomorrow can be exactly what I've planned for it to be. Does that make sense? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
You guys are doing really, really good. I need you to keep it up today and tomorrow. And then after that, it's business as usual, and we can go back to being hoodlums. Sound good? We need to be like just church mice today. I need y'all to be quiet and on task and just do the best that we can. And we're gonna sign this at the end of class when we work independently on our exit ticket. So when you guys are working on your own, I'm gonna come around and I'm gonna sign all your score sheets. So no one needs to ask me about it again. Yes, today. So I'm gonna give you guys signatures from yesterday and today, if you earned them again today. So we're all good. I won't forget about it. Everyone just put it out on the desk and I'm gonna sign it later. Okay? We're gonna go ahead and get started today. So starting now, we are rolling and we're gonna go ahead and get started. Sounds cool?
Yes.
You guys are awesome and you amaze me every day. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do attendance really quickly. If I say your name, will you please just say here so that I can make this roll?
And do we raise our hand? Do we raise our hand too?
For attendance?
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Just shout here. Give me a second.
But not here.
All right. 6th period. All right, we have Garrett. Are you here, bud? All right, 6. Lucas.
Here.
Jonas.
Here.
Karish.
Here.
All right, Daniel.
He's not here.
Not here. Christopher.
I think he's here. Yeah, he's here.
Where's Where's Chris?
Here.
There you go. Yeah, I heard your voice. All right. So Daniel's not here. What about Noah? James?
Over here.
Wesley? Amelia? Quinzel? Gavin? Micah? Caleb? Cohen's not here. Caleb, are you here? Hi, there you go. Sorry about that. All right, Elaine is here. Sophia, are you here?
Hey, what?
Bryson?
No.
Katie is not here.
Why are you pretending like you're making noise?
Hey, Jade.
What?
Jade? Yep. Ben?
Here.
Cairo?
Here.
And Dalton? Dalton's not here? Great, okay.
He hasn't been here for a
Yeah, he's
long
back now.
time.
All right, fantastic. Okay, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Please open up your digital notebook. And we're gonna be back on slide 8 for a couple minutes, which is what you were doing yesterday. How far did we get with your exit ticket yesterday? Probably not too far?
Finish it for homework.
Okay, great. So some of y'all were wrapping it up in Excel probably. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about it for a minute, and I wanna hear about some of your answers, because I'm curious what you think. Because this is very much an opinion. You know, it's like, hey, do you think that it was more economic or more political that caused the snowball to start rolling, you know, for World War II? And I wanna hear which one you think was the most influential and which one you think was the most important. So, the question was, which do you think was the most influential and why? Does anybody want to share their answer? Who here thought it was political? Yeah? Noah, do you want to share your answer for us? Nice. You're good? Alright, who else thought it was political? Cairo? Yeah, what'd you say, bud? We're loud and proud.
I thought it was political because Hitler was trying to take over the world and he was making a royal race.
Yep. Yeah, great. So he was bringing up Adolf Hitler, who is a political leader, and when we organized our different causes yesterday into the political and economic category, we put him in the political category, right? Yeah, because he was a political leader. He was attempting to take over Europe. You know, he was acting as a dictator. He was acting under fascism. We talked about those vocabulary words yesterday. So when we talk about that, we do think of Adolf Hitler. We think about Benito Mussolini, and we think about Hideki Tojo, which I yesterday pronounced it Toyo. And I was incorrect, and so I looked it up today, and the actual pronunciation is Tojo, and I apologize for that because I was wrong. So, moving on today, those three are going to be your political leaders, right? So that's a really great thing to bring up for that answer. Who here said it was economic? Did you think that economics were the main reason for World War II? Did anyone say that in their exit ticket, or did all of y'all say political? Sorry, Susan. Yeah, you could have talked about debt. This is in your exit ticket, and we're bringing up your answers for your exit tickets. Did anyone say economic? No? That's all right. So, how I would have answered the question is I think that it was a domino effect, but I think it started economic and it turned political because during our Great Depression, do you guys remember when in our last unit, we talked about how Herbert Hoover was blamed for the Depression? And so when the economics are super, super bad, people often look for leadership in government to fix the problem. So I think that Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler and Hideki Tojo, right? Hideki Tojo, perhaps, I'm not really sure, I might be pronouncing it wrong. But these three men took advantage of the economic crisis, and they took advantage of people's desire to have better leadership. And so when the economics were super, super bad, they were like, people are looking for someone to step up and take over and to make things better. And so they took advantage of people's desire for new leadership, and they worked their way up to the top and then took over as dictators. So originally they were elected, and originally they were put in place the normal way, you know, like we see in democracy and stuff like that. So it'd be like someone being elected president, and then they took over completely, and they like got rid of checks and balances, you know, all of those things. And so they took what would ordinarily be a regular government position, and they took total control over everything. Yes, ma'am?
Did all three of those people work together?
Yeah, they work together. And so when we're talking today, we're going to talk about the difference between the Allied powers and the Axis powers. And so Finn's question was, did they work together? They did work together. And so we know Tojo and Mussolini and Adolf Hitler, right? Those three guys. We know them as the Axis powers, and they all work together on the same side of the fight of the war. So, that being said, all of y'all had different opinions, and you all had different answers to the exit ticket from yesterday, whether you thought it was economic or political. And like all things, there are going to be two sides to every argument. There's gonna be 2 opinions for every question, right? So just like that, there were 2 sides to the war, okay? So do you guys remember in World War I, this is 2 units ago, 3 units ago actually, you guys had the Central Powers and then you had the Allies in World War I, right? So you had 2 different sides. We often categorize them as like the good guys and the bad guys, right? So if you guys want to categorize them into good guys and bad guys, we can look at the difference between the Axis powers and the Allied powers. Yes. I'm sorry, what was that? Okay. Miss Gail, can I put your bag on the floor?
Oh, yeah, that's
Great.
fine.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
You're welcome. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the Allied powers, and the way I like to remember the Allied powers is when I hear allies, it just sounds like a really chummy word. Like everyone's like linking arms and they're skipping off into the sunset. I see like the Avengers, you know, like I see like superheroes, like a whole crew of them, right? And these are the people who are fighting the good fight, right? These are the people who are advocating for people who are lost and people who aren't doing well, and people who are being oppressed, right? So we see the allies as the people who ganged up and represented those who were being put down by the Axis powers, right? So when we think about the Allied powers, we have 3 critically important ones. We call them the big 3, okay? And then we have others, and by the end of the war, there ended up being over a dozen people who were technically under the Allied powers umbrella, and so people who had signed treaties, signed peace agreements with the Allies, and so there ended up being way more than 3. But when we think about our 3 most important, they aren't even the first 3 that joined, because if it was the first 3, France would be in there, but they're not. Because France was early on, right? And the US stayed out of the fight for a while. But our 3 Allied powers are Great Britain, Soviet Union, and the United States. So everyone say this with me. Great Britain, Soviet Union, and the United States. Great, thank you. Okay, so those are our big 3, right? And then you also notice we have China down here at the bottom. And there's red text right here that you guys do not have on your slide. Okay, and so you're like, I didn't get that one. It's okay, it was intentional. I am setting an example by writing additional notes on my screen so that you guys can do the same. And you'll notice I left a lot of blank space on your notes and on each slide of your digital notebook. And I did that for a reason, because I wanted you guys to have the opportunity to take notes if you want them, right? And so, you know how last time in our last unit, I had you guys write on your study guide to use on your test? I'm not gonna give y'all a paper study guide right now, because your test is 2 weeks away, and I don't want you to take notes on something and accidentally lose it. So you're not gonna lose your digital notebook. So what I did was I gave you guys extra space to write notes, so that in 2 weeks when you take your test, if you wanna study with your notes, or if you're gonna write down another study guide to use on your test, that you're gonna have things stowed away to use. Because I wanna give you guys a chance to use those again. So if you look here, I have written in red, China, and the dash right there says first country to enter the war. Because I thought that was important information to know, and I think you should know it too. So I would recommend that you tab down under China and you would type this note out for yourself. I would say first country to enter the war. I want to see fingers typing. First country to enter the war. You're going to want to add this because I want you guys to have these notes with you. And then it says invaded by Japan and declared war on Japan. So just like how yesterday when we talked about the political causes, 1 second, Bryson, remember we guys are here before we speak. So the political causes, one of them, number 1, was that JIG, so Japan, Italy, and Germany, invaded surrounding nations. So this is an example of what happened there, all right? So Japan tiptoed out of their boundary, right, and they went into Japan, and they also went into Korea, right? And so when they invaded those surrounding nations, China was the first to declare war against Japan. And so this is the first declaration of war in World War II. Bryce, did you have a question? You're good. If you think about it, flag it down. Oh yeah, no, it wasn't related. I just picked red so that it would stand out to you guys as something different. So I would recommend that you guys go ahead and take that note so that you can have it for later. So China was the first to declare war, all right? And this information is consistent here. I think I lost my pen, so I might use my finger, but bless you. I also wrote this under Japan, right? I said they invaded China. So these 2 pieces of information are connected. But we're not gonna get to them quite yet. So,
Put an arrow.
yeah, that's an arrow, yeah.
Should be on our.
Oh, no, you're good. I'm just doing this so that you guys can see where I'm going and you're tracking with me. So, We have China, who was an allied power, but they weren't a part of the big three. So we have our big three here. We have one, we have 1, 2, 3. Great Britain, Soviet Union, and the United States, okay? Powers 1, 2, and 3, big three. All right, does that sound good? Sick, okay. Then we have the Axis powers. They also had a big three, right? So we have big three, can't speak. Big three on the good fight, big three on the bad fight, right? So we have 1, 2, 3 here as well. Okay, we have Nazi Germany, Italy, and Japan. Now the reason I say Nazi Germany and not just Germany is because the Germany that existed before World War II and the Germany that exists now is very different from Nazi Germany. Because Nazi Germany, the word Nazi is connected to fascism, right? And it's connected to Hitler's Nazi party. And we're gonna talk about that when we discuss the Holocaust and when we discuss that in depth, right? But I wanted to specify and put Nazi Germany here because Germany in its state before the dictatorship and before Hitler took over wasn't necessarily all about the same things that he was when he took over, right? And so he brought in dictatorship and fascism and totalitarianism, which are words that we were talking about when we put in our vocabulary list yesterday, right? I'll get to you in 1 second. I'm not gonna forget about you. Hold on to your question now. So I put Nazi Germany up here because that's not the same thing we see today. Modern Germany is not Nazi Germany because they've recovered and they've established their original government again after the dictatorship. So that's specific to this time period, and so that's why I put that up there. Bryson, what was your question?
Why is there like, since it represents Germany, why is there not the Nazi flag or anything during World War II?
Yeah.
Because there was a Nazi flag, an Italy flag, and a Japanese.
So this is the German flag because the Nazi flag was different. And so truly, if I was going to make it accurate, I would have put the Nazi flag up there, but I thought it would be good for you guys to see the nations instead of the party groups that took over. Because although the Nazi party was the prominent governing force in Germany at that time, it wasn't necessarily the nation itself. Because it's kind of like we have the Democratic Party and we have the Republican Party here in America. Although those are parties that have influence, they're not necessarily America, if that makes sense. So we have like those people groups in that party, but then we also have our nation and we also have our flag. So Germany was still Germany, that they were being ruled by the Nazi party. So he asked why this flag is the German flag and not the Nazi flag, and my explanation is essentially that the Nazi party, although they were in control, did not replace the country. It was simply who was driving the train, if that makes sense. So like the Nazis were in power, but the country itself did not turn into Nazi. It was still
Yeah, I know.
Germany.
Not everybody like.
Does that answer your question? Okay, good. So we have Nazi Germany, then we have Italy. It's important to note that all three of these were essentially the same situation, like 3 different fonts, right? We have like Arial, and then we have Times New Roman, and we have bold, you know, like all these different fonts, right? It was a similar situation in 3 different places. And these people were working together, like Finn said, right? And so all of these are fascist governments at the time. I didn't put fascism next to Japan, but they were experiencing that as well. So we have a fascist dictatorship, another one, and another one. Okay, we have 3 similar situations going on. Yes, sir.
So it kind of goes on a broad discussion, but like, was there a national part of Germany that was Nazi?
That's a great question. So he asked if there was a portion of Germany who were exclusively like occupied or contained members of the Nazi party, right? They were more spread throughout, and there were many, many, many people in the country of Germany who were members of the Nazi party, but there wasn't necessarily like a region or an area where they all lived. That's a good question. Okay, so we have these 3 powers, right? We have the Axis powers. I'm going to categorize them as the bad guys. I do, and then we have the good guys, all right? And the Allied powers are advocating for the people who the Axis powers were targeting, right? So those are the nations they were invading. Those are the people that they were putting down due to fascism. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, cool. Does anyone have any questions? No? Alright, so it's important to make note. I'm gonna exit out of here.
Oh, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Did America fight by itself or with other countries?
So America fought with other countries. So America was within the Allied powers, right? And so America fought alongside the Soviet Union, and they fought alongside Great Britain, and they fought alongside China and the other countries, and there ended up being 12 under the Allied powers umbrella by the end of the war. But it's important to note here, I'm gonna X out so you guys can actually read this, there's a lot of red up there. Down here in yellow, it gives you specifications of what the Allied powers did and why the big three were so important. And it's important to note down here, it says that the big three, so our top three, Great Britain, Soviet Union, United States, were the principal contributors. That's a big word that basically means they gave the most, or they were the most important, or they brought the most to the table. One second, Chris, I won't forget about yours, okay? Of manpower, so I'm gonna underline manpower, it'll let me. Manpower, resources, and strategy. When we think about war, what do you need? You need people, you need gear, you need ammunition, tanks, ships, planes, etc. And you also need someone to plan it all. Yeah? So we need manpower, resources, and strategy. You need your generals, you need your soldiers, you need your guns, right? To fight in the war. So they were the biggest contributors of these things, and so that sometimes means, especially in the United States, like, we didn't necessarily fight right off the bat, but we were supporting the countries who were through sending money, through sending tanks, ships, planes, etc. So we were doing our best to contribute to the war even when we weren't actively in it, and that's called isolationism. Right, we were taking a step back and we were kind of sliding cash under the table for Great Britain, right? We talked about that yesterday. And so that's important to note that these three different elements are what actually put these three people up in the big three, because they were contributing the most. And by the end of World War II, like I said, there were over a dozen allied nations. So to answer your question, yes, the United States was fighting with other nations. They were fighting with the other, I think it would have been like around like 15 or 16 allied nations by the end of the war. Does that answer your question? Yeah, Chris, did you have one?
Why doesn't it show the president for China at that time?
Can you say that one more time?
Why doesn't it show the president of China at that time?
President of China. So, here's the thing about China. They have a different form of government than we do, and it's a little complex. And so they have like emperors and they have other leaders within like a monarchy, which is kind of like what Great Britain has. Like they have kings and queens and people like that. And so it's a little complex. But think about.
Never mind. China is a state, not a country.
Sure, yeah. And so when we think about that, we think that sometimes because Hideki Tojo, or Tojo, right, was not the emperor in Japan, but he was the military leader. So we put him down here. So he wasn't necessarily like the president, quote unquote, of Japan, but he was the primary military leader. And so China's primary military leader changed multiple times throughout World War II. And so there isn't one specific person that contributed greatly to that. So that's why they don't have a specific leader that's listed. No, that's our present member. But they don't have a specific leader that's listed because it's not part of what y'all need to learn. But it's good to know that their leadership changed multiple times, but they were still a big contributing factor because they kicked off the war. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like how we have FDR in America, right? So you're gonna want this for our next activity, but we do have the major leaders listed underneath these nations' names. Yeah, so we have Great Britain, Soviet Union, and the United States. And we have Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, and Hideki Tojo, right? So we have these 6 guys, right? These big, like, either military leaders or elected officials. And you're gonna want that information, so you can come back to that when we go in for our activities. Does anyone else have questions? All set, okay, great. I want y'all to please go to the next slide for me. We're gonna be doing an activity. It's gonna be a really good time. So your directions say research time, exclamation point. Everyone go, exclamation point. Exclamation. All right, so you are gonna be working with a given group, and I'm going to assign that group just based on where you're sitting in the classroom to make things easy. And you're gonna be working with that group to research and learn about one allied power. So one of these 3, right? We're gonna focus on the big 3 allied powers. Okay? So your group is gonna get one of these 3. You're either gonna get Great Britain, Soviet Union, or the United States. Okay? You're gonna research one of them that I'm gonna give you. And you're gonna use the article links to do that. And you're gonna answer 3 questions. Okay? So there's 3 different things you need to find. I need you guys to find, I need your attention, but I'm giving directions, okay? I need to know the when. I need to know when they joined the war. I need to know the month or the year, either one, probably both would be nice. And why. I wanna know why they joined the war, I wanna know what caused them to enter it, I need to know what caused them to declare war, anything like that. And then I want you to mention who their primary leader was, okay? So all the primary leaders that you would need to find are on the previous slide. So you wouldn't need to look for that in your article, but you'll probably come across it anyway. So I need to know 3 things. The when, the why, the primary leader, okay? So those 3 things, and these are all the places you're gonna write them. So when did they join the war, why, primary leader for all 3 of those, right? And so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna divide you guys up based on where you're sitting so that you can work with your group on this to find those 3 things. Now, if you're in Great Britain, here's a heads up. Your link has been working for some people and not others. It's been kind of sporadic. I don't really know what's going on, but it'll work for some people in your group, okay? So if one person gets the little exclamation point in the triangle that says, hold up, this isn't safe, that's fine. You can use Google to find your information if you like, or someone else in your group, it will work for somebody. So if you want that person to read it and then share what they find with you, that would be great too. So you guys can use these links. I checked these articles. They have all the information you're gonna need in there. They have the when, the why, the who, okay? So everything that you needed can be found in those articles, but if you would find that you can get that information better somewhere else, or if you can't find it in the article, please Google search it, and that's okay. But make sure you're working in your group, and that everybody in your group has all the information for your specific country, okay? So if you're in Great Britain, everybody in your group needs to have that.
You said the block.
That one, yeah, it's okay. Someone else in your group will have access, because it's just been a handful of people in the group that can't have access, and so we can't figure out what it is, but it's all right, it's not the end of the world. So, you can have those articles to access your information. Heyo, class. Okay, you have those articles, but here's the thing. You're not just working with your group, right? Because then you would only have information for the Soviet Union, or you would only have the information for Great Britain. So what we're gonna do is every group of people, so for instance, if you boys, this whole half of the classroom, we're gonna be the United States, you're gonna send 2 people. So I would take Chris and I would take Finn, and they would go visit the other 2 groups. Okay, so Chris would go visit the Soviet Union, and Finn would go to Great Britain.
We're not communists.
Hey, what's up? Up here. These instructions are kind of tough, so I want you guys to listen so you know what's up, alright? So whoever, you're gonna take 2 people from that group, and they're gonna go visit the other 2 groups, and they're gonna act as a messenger. And they're gonna take the information you learned in your group and share it with the other ones, so that Great Britain can learn about the Soviet Union, and so that the United States can learn about Great Britain. And so you guys are gonna work in your group for a good 7 minutes, getting all of your information before you guys start to fly to different groups, okay? And so I'll come around after 7 minutes after you've worked independently in your groups, and I'm gonna identify who's gonna leave, where you're gonna go, and just let it be known that when those 2 people show up in your group, right, they're gonna be bearing information, they're gonna be bringing information to your group that you need. Because if you're Soviet Union, you don't have the other 2 filled out. And you need those to be filled out when you turn in your digital notebook at the end of the unit to get full points. So they have information you need, and they did it for free. They're just giving the information away to you. So make sure when someone comes to your group to share it with you that you're listening, so that they can give you the information you need to get a perfect score on your notebook. Does that make sense? And I'll explain that more once we start moving around, so you don't need to be confused. Yes, Bryson?
So wait, you said this happened from the Soviet Union?
I haven't identified it yet. So, all right, y'all listen up. So I'm gonna tell you who your groups are, okay? So, I think what I'm gonna do is these first 3 desks up here. So you 2 boys, you 2, and you 2. You can be the United States, okay? So y'all are gonna be the US. Does that make sense? So y'all cluster together and work on this together. Open up your article and start working, okay? And then you 2, please, with you 2, in this high table, y'all are gonna be working together, and you're gonna be the Soviet Union. Yeah? Does that make sense? Okay, great. Can you guys get up? Yep, the middle one, yeah. The big red flag. So I want you guys to please stand up and come work at the high table with the boys so you guys can all talk together and get all your information and share it. Okay? Alright, so you're Soviet Union. You on that? Great. And you guys are going to be great guys, okay? Alright, so Miss Elena, you ladies at the high table, these 3 boys, y'all are going to be great. So you guys can stand at the high table on the clock, and I'm gonna time it, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna share our answers with each group. So, y'all work hard to get the information that you need.
Okay, so first question is what?
And you do have access to the group written article.
When did they join for? Someone find that answer.
That's fine, it's not a group, at least a handful of people have it.
Why don't you find out why? If someone finds it, somebody else finds out.
All the information you need.
No, it was 1942.
Alright,
No, it was 1941.
alright boys,
It said 1930.
we're gonna roll.
No, that is not talking about that.
Are you United States?
1930.
United States, right?
Excellent. Okay, so everybody type in 1939.
Yep.
That's
correct.
Oh, I was like,
Yep.
no, December 1. I think it was like, I think it was no, I think it was December 7.
Okay, so
Yeah,
why is it?
because it's the day that we'll
December
learn.
11.
Germany invading Poland, but it failed to say.
Well, I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that we declared war on Japan the day after, but maybe we declared war on Germany.
So, Germany invaded Poland.
72, it's a good movie.
That's why, I'm assuming that's that. That was the last straw.
Alright, y'all want to come back this week?
Invaded Poland.
Alright boys, how are we doing? Yeah, that's a lot.
I'm not reading it, okay?
Okay, well, you have access to it.
Wait, why?
Well, I was looking at it. Wait, I got it wrong.
Oh.
That was we're talking about one more.
Yeah. Yep, alright.
I actually.
Okay, so the answers are wrong, so someone else has to find out the answers.
Oh my god, that's
Google search information.
No, I typed in Great Britain instead of Germany.
no, it says that.
Someone looking it up or no?
Hey, could you be one? For a hard word.
How about you guys divide it over? We define the one. One person finds the what, and then,
I'll find out the one.
Katie's here? Yeah, I see her right there.
So,
So,
Not out.
go ahead.
so
What do you
we're
want to
into
say?
the war.
June 19th.
1941.
Yeah, what, 1941.
1941.
It's really cringe.
Okay, so then just go back to the slide and make sure you're writing down what you're writing. Alright, open your slide so it's Yeah? You doing good, Katie?
Why?
Yeah? Okay, great. Listen up, because we're going to go over the answers when everyone's done, and you'll be able to write everything down. Yep? Okay, good. Alright, boys.
We're doing Russia.
Alright, guys, I'm going to give you about 1 or 2 more minutes. Would that be alright with you all? To wrap up your information and we'll start sharing? What do you?
So why did they answer the war? What was the short story?
When did they join the war? Why? So like
World War II.
But no. Bro, but we need to talk about no shit.
Alright guys, as you're coming to a close, will you please identify 2 people from your group that can speak well for your group and communicate your information?
Noah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay, you two? Okay, great. What's up? Tell me after class.
no, I'm not reading this out.
Alright, so from this group, alright, y'all, take class. Take class. Take class. Alright, remember after class, yes, we don't talk anymore. Bless you. Take class. Alright, I need all the chatter to write down because we're gonna start sending people where they're going and I have additional instructions. And I want you guys to be able to hear it, okay? So who from this group is gonna go speak to other groups, okay? You and Noah? Alright guys, So, Soviet Union, Finn is gonna come over and visit you guys. He has the information for Great Britain. So I want y'all to listen to what he, oh, so sorry, for the United States. So when he's speaking, I want y'all to take what he's telling you and put it in the United States category. And then Noah, you're gonna go speak over here to Great Britain. So bring your laptop and bring your information. And so over here in Great Britain, Noah is bringing information about the United States to you guys. So write down what he has to say. Okay, from Great Britain, who's leaving? Who's piecing out to go teach other groups? Yeah, Jaden? Is that you, bud? How about both of you guys? Yeah, we need two. So, both of y'all. No, he's fine. Bryson's on it. Alright, Jaden, I'm gonna have you go over to Soviet Union, and I want you to bring the information about Great Britain over there. Alright, Sophia, I'm gonna have you come over here. Hold on, Sophia. Sorry about that. Do you wanna come? Bryce, do you wanna share this for your group?
Did they join the war?
Alright, come on guys, we gotta pull it together.
Did they join the war? Was December 11th,
Hey, Sophia,
1941?
can you go?
It was Lucas.
Thank you.
It wasn't me.
Alright, bud, find your group, please. Hey.
Okay, why?
Alright, Sophia. Okay, Sophia's gonna go bring information about Great Britain over to the United States. Hey, Soviet Union, over here.
What was the date?
Alright, guys. I need some more. Yeah, you wanna come?
No.
Who's that?
They're trying to type right now. Yeah. But they're trying to type soon. Okay. Y'all type it. They're let's talk about why.
Why did they join the war? Germany.
I'll go. Does that make sense?
Alright, let's see here. Hey, Gavin. You wanna come with? You wanna take you to another group? Yeah. And they're gonna give you the information. You won't miss out on it.
But that doesn't make sense.
They're gonna give you all the information that they've given you. Yeah, yeah. Hey guys, alright, you need to fill in the blank on the United States information. You need to share. Let me see something. Well, you guys are shuffling, right? To exchange information. So, Gavin, you should ask them what you learned about the city. And they're gonna tell you about the
But don't use Wikipedia. Never use Wikipedia.
Sophia has the information from Great Britain. So you can do that.
The leader was Springfield.
We need to work on that.
No.
So you're taking the question, what is in the United States?
You could just put an FDR. British.
Stop jawing at me.
The
Here, you guys can get it.
Did everybody get it? So it was FDR, Franklin, Roosevelt, so
I want to be ginger.
I want to be gender.
You are house slavery.
I think I'll say I did. I was shocked. Yeah. No, you were in Finland. No, let's
So, we ended up happening. Was friendly with me.
I sound like
And they were allies. As long as they didn't invade it. So when Germany invaded Poland, then they didn't trust Germany anymore. So Germany invaded Poland. So the Soviet Union joined the war because Germany invaded
yeah.
So friendly. I got it.
and they joined the war. And
I'm allergic to that.
you got that part?
All we need is their lead.
You go to the previous slide, has the slide 9. Yep, you go look at Soviet Union. It has the
Shut your mouth.
There you go. And if y'all are still looking for the leader, it's on the previous slide. And you guys will take that answer.
Sophia.
Fantastic. Nice job. Alright, y'all are doing great. You guys wrap this up. I'm gonna review all the correct answers. Sound good? Alright, everybody. Wrap up your conversations and everyone return to your seat. We're gonna go over all the right answers. So if you missed anything, there's no stress. We're gonna go over all the right answers now. So you don't have to worry about it. Everyone return to your seats. We're gonna go over all the right answers. Alright. Alright, go back to your assigned seats, please. We're gonna go over all the right answers. Alright guys, we gotta get cooking. We have a couple other things to do before the end of class. So we're gonna go over all the right answers. Hey Chris, where you right, now this. Okay. I need all eyes and ears up here for me. Can anybody tell me from the Great Britain group when they joined the war? Yes, right. When did they join the war? Great Britain? It's okay.
Wait, are we
not
in
very-
Soviet Union? Like, what was it, like 1941?
Is it 1941?
No, 1930.
Okay, who's from the Great Britain?
I know that's
Alright, Sophia, what year did they join the war? 1939, okay? So if you did not get this information, you guys can write it down now. So if you missed it, you can phone the link here. Alright, Sophia, why did Great Britain join the war?
Make sure you get all this
Great.
information.
Okay? So I'm gonna write Germany, and then I'm gonna put an arrow, and write Poland. And that's because Germany invaded Poland.
Y'all have a gas.
Okay, and that's why Great Britain declared war on Germany. Okay? What about their primary leader?
It was
Winston Churchill? Yep. So Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister of Great Britain. So I'm just gonna write Churchill. Okay? Alright, what about the Soviet Union? Who came from that group? Alright, Gavin, can you tell me what year they joined the war?
1941.
1941. Alright, and why did they join the war?
Same reason as Germany or Britain.
Okay, great, yeah, so they invaded Poland, yep. So when the Soviet Union declared war on Germany, it's because the Soviet Union, hey no, joined, the Soviet Union and Germany used to be allies, but they had an agreement that they wouldn't attack other nations. So when Germany broke that, the Soviet Union was no longer allies with Germany, right? So we're gonna say invaded Poland. And that was kind of the first major event in World War II, although China declared war first. Germany's invasion of Poland was the kind of like the tinderbox that we know in World War I. There's a lot of things building up to it, but that sparked all of it. Yeah? Alright, who is our primary leader in the Soviet Union?
I have no idea.
Joseph.
It's okay, Joseph Stalin.
Joseph Stalin.
It looks like Stalin, but it's Stalin.
I said Staten. Stalin.
Alright, how about the United States? When did they join the war? Noah. Alright, stay class. Alright, listen up, no talking. Alright, 1941, and that was after Pearl Harbor, when we finally joined the war. Alright, why?
The bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor, okay, I already said it. Pearl. Alright, Pearl Harbor. So their primary leader was FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and that was the guy we know from our previous unit, who was the president at the end of the Great Depression, right? The one who started the New Deal and all of that stuff. So I'm just gonna write FDR. Alright, I'm gonna give you guys a minute to write these down, so I don't wanna leave you in the dust. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? No? Okay, yes sir.
Or being good enough to get fans so
Yeah,
far.
y'all keep that. We only have a couple minutes left of class, so I wanna see you guys make all of it, okay?
So that we don't lose
Okay,
our
great.
time.
So here's the deal. We didn't get quite as far as we were hoping to today. So is it alright if I exit out of here? Yeah, y'all have it? We didn't get quite as far as I was hoping, but I would like to give you guys something to do during Excel today that we didn't get a chance to do. So you're not in here for Excel, but you're somewhere else, right? So, alright guys, I need your attention. You still have 2 minutes, so I'm gonna give you the instructions, right, and then I want you to do this tonight, so we can come in tomorrow and discuss it. So, on slide 12, you have 2 questions, okay? And these questions each have 2 parts, okay? And so the first part, actually, no, hold on. And remember, you guys aren't dismissed until the bell rings, so I have you until then, alright. Do you think isolationism is an effective strategy? That's a yes or no question, okay? So that's a yes or a no. But I would like, give me 1 second, I would like for you guys to write in 8th grade sentences, please. So even though it's a yes or no question, I'd like for you to use a full sentence to explain that. And then I'd also like for you to explain why or why not. So this is part 1, and this is part 2. You're gonna have 2 parts to the question. And I'd like for you guys to explain why or why not you think it's effective. And we talked about isolationism because that's what the US did. We held back and we stayed in the shadows until we were attacked at Pearl Harbor, like Ben said, and that's when we joined the war. Okay? So you guys can explain whether you think that is effective or not, because we ended up joining the war anyway. So if that helps at all, it can really only be effective for so long, you know? And so I would say no, personally, but do you think appeasement is an effective strategy? It's the same question, 2 different words and 2 different ideas, okay? Appeasement is very different from isolationism. We talked about appeasement yesterday when France and Great Britain gave Hitler a little bit of Czechoslovakia because they thought it would satisfy him and he wouldn't ask for more. They appeased him by giving him a little bit of what he wanted, right? So I want you to explain if you think that's effective, because he ended up taking over many other countries anyway. And then I would like for you to explain why or why not. So part 1 and part 2, your directions tell you to use 8th grade sentences and to do 2 sentences per question. I want y'all to look at this in Excel, and even if you don't get it done tomorrow in Excel, we're gonna talk about it tomorrow. And I wanted to kick off our lesson for tomorrow. Everyone say it's cool? Great. All right, you guys come back tomorrow with these answers and we'll get started. All right, since you guys are leaving in a minute, tomorrow I'll sign all your class cards for you. All right, you guys did super, super good today. Thank you. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Can't believe you actually.
Really? Congratulations. That's really cool. Hey, you don't freaking know that yet. still love it. I'll still love it late. Not a late class.
What period did we get to for 7?
Where do we go for Excel today? What, 4th period?
Alright, y'all, please have a seat at your desks. I will sign your pass cards if I haven't already. But we are going to finish up our exit ticket.